What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the House of Riddict. That's right, I'm back in the YWC. And at first, let me get this right out of the way. You might be looking at this and saying, oh, wow, this is kind of like JD from NY. And you know what? It is, because, hey, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, they say. I love JD. He inspired me. What can I say? The only difference being is I built this place myself through many, many hours of hard work and graphic intense labor. Built this place myself. It's been a long time coming, and I wanted to give the Wyatt community something kind of like what he does, you know, but something for us to chew on and sink our teeth into. All right. So that's what you get. You get this. We have the Wyatt House. What do you think of it? House of Riddict, I should say. But yeah, all kinds of work went into this that I did, had no help, did this on my own, been working on this for a while, and I didn't want to come back until I had it all ready to debut. So here we are. And obviously, we're going to talk about what's been going on in the pro wrestling world. And I want to say right out of the gate that I am fully back. I'm going to do a once a week podcast on everything that's going on in wrestling. All right. Mainly just WWE. Okay. Because if I start covering everything, it's just going to be too much. And so in order for me to be regularly back, we're just going to be sticking with WWE here. Okay. Not so much NXT, not so much Evolve or any of that stuff or AEW. We're just going to stick with WWE, the main roster stuff, because at the end of the day, what really set me back before is, even though I only talked about certain subjects in the past, what really set me back is wanting to do way too much that I can actually do based on my life schedule and other things that I do otherwise, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to focus on the main WWE programming and cover that. Now, of course, if there's some kind of crazy news involving WWE that is, I think, important to talk about, I'll come on and talk about it and give my thoughts. But as of right now, we're going to do one weekly show and kind of group everything in together that I can come up with, or that I want to talk about, that I think is the most important topics that I want to touch on. So that's how we're going to do it. Starting off, of course, being that this is a Wyatt community, it has been reported that Bo Dallas, a.k.a. Uncle Howdy, has been medically cleared to return to the ring, which is very exciting. We don't know what the problem was. I can only venture to guess. And it was kind of scary. Not going to lie, after everything that happened with Bray and how he disappeared and the weird not really knowing what's going on there. And hey, it's none of our business, obviously, to know what's going on. If they want to tell us, they'll tell us. If Bo wants us to know, he'll tell us, you know. So it's really none of our business, but it did give me that funky feeling, and I did not like it. Did not like it whatsoever, but very happy to hear that he's going to be coming back. It's all good. And we can expect him and the Wyatt Six back really, really soon. Then we can get the ball rolling. And of course, Alexa will be mixed in with all of this very soon, I would assume, as well, considering all of the things that we've been seeing on TV. There's been glitches recently in recent weeks. The most recent being we saw a little bit of a glitch of the Funhouse with the door open, which is very significant. Saw the eyeball in there. Multiple other images you had flashed in the door when it was open in that particular scene. I think that was back during Bray's last run, and toward the end we saw the door open and we seen a bunch of images flashing there. I think that's just a clip from that, a little still from that. So we've been seeing that over Alexa's matches. She's only had a couple, but we've been seeing that. And a couple other ones. The last one, though, we did see the full Wyatt Six standing there in the latest glitch that happened over Alexa on SmackDown before the Elimination Chamber. A lot of people were disappointed she did not win the Elimination Chamber. I just say this, be patient. Here's the thing. Me as a wrestling fan looking at other wrestling fans just being so impatient that it's absolutely ridiculous. It's like, guys, this is an episodic weekly television show, much like any other episodic weekly television show. Stranger Things, even though Netflix usually just drops a big cluster of those at once. And that might be, I will say this, now that I just said that, that may be where people are spoiled, where when you get a TV show on a streaming service, they tend to drop a lot of the episodes right away. There are some that don't, but there is a lot, and then they'll just drop Cobra Kai, the whole thing. They didn't do it this last time for the last season of Cobra Kai, obviously, but they'll drop seasons of shows, and then people can just sit there and binge watch, and they get all that instant gratification in one sitting through the hours of binge watching. Unfortunately, since wrestling is live, we can't do that. You have to wait. You have to wait till the next week to see what's going to happen, and then the next week, and then the next week. So that's just the way it is. Guys, I'm in my mid-40s. I grew up watching wrestling ever since basically day one has been on my TV. Back then, you had to just watch every week. You couldn't just binge watch TV shows, and that goes for any TV shows, including my favorite of all time, Miami Vice. That's right. You couldn't just, binge watch it all. You had to wait till the next episode came out week after week. That's just the way it is. And quite frankly, when you watch it like that, and you wait for the next episode, and then you get the payoff, or you get the peaks and the valleys and stuff like that, it takes you on a ride. And you can't wait until the next week to see what happens. A lot of wrestling fans these days, they just want the instant gratification. They want it all happening now. It's not fun anymore when you do that. When you do that, it just takes away from it, okay? So I tend to not want that at all. A lot of Alexa fans want instant gratification on her. Just throw her right back in the group, be done. But there's so much more to tell there. There's just so much more to tell there with her, especially with how things ended between The Fiend and Alexa at WrestleMania that year, and everything after that with Uncle Howdy kind of reaching out and tormenting her a little bit and saying, do you feel like you're in control? Do you feel like you're in charge? He's kind of reeling her back in. There's more there to tell. Now, it seems like with the way she came back recently, the way her look is and everything, and the way she's acting, that she's pretty much kind of drawn back in already. However, she said that she's in charge, which is simply not the case. Uncle Howdy's in charge. Well, in the past, maybe it was Bray, I don't know. But right now, Uncle Howdy's in charge. And there's a story to tell. There's a story to tell now. Maybe she does kind of go right back in the group, which would be okay, I guess. But I'd much rather see a story play out. Now, if she does go right back in the group, I would like to see at least vignettes or some kind of story that was filmed that we can see play out over weeks, and to why she's now just back in the group. Don't just leave it open, like just say, she's back in the group, and then never tell us like how we got there. If we're not going to do it live on TV every week in the ring or in backstage, at least do some vignettes, that lead up to how we got here. That would be nice. And see where we kind of left off, because it kind of picked up where they left off with the whole do you feel in charge thing. So I'd like to see that play out over time, because it's an important part of the story to me. I want to see how we get there, how we got there, whatever. All right, so, but I say about the Alexa fans, see, here's the thing, guys. This may be controversial, but I'm not the biggest Alexa fan. I'm really not. I like her, and I liked everything she did with Bray and the Funhouse and all that, and I do have a chip on my shoulder about how they did the whole thing at WrestleMania, and she turned on him and stuff, and I know that's not her fault in real life, obviously. That's Vincent Kennedy McMahon, piece of trash. I'm not even going in there. We're not going down that road, but I just know that we don't get it. We do not like Vincent Kennedy McMahon around here. Okay, maybe we can acknowledge that he did a lot for the wrestling business, and what it is today, but that doesn't mean that we have to like or even support or even acknowledge the son of a bitch. So we are going to stop right there, stop acknowledging him. Had to throw that in there because the whole thing that happened between her and Bray at the WrestleMania when he was fighting Randy Orton, it's just so, it didn't have to happen. It was so stupid and just absolutely horrible booking, absolutely just god-awful booking, especially coming off of the one with Goldberg and everything else. Just an absolute horrible decision. And yeah, it just really pissed me off. And I know, again, it's not her fault. But in the storyline, since it's already out there in the ether, Triple H doesn't like to just say, we're just going to drop that and move on to something else. There's times where you could do that, but with this, it's so ingrained in the Wyatt community. Every little detail matters when we're talking about the Wyatt stuff. It always has, and it always will. So it's already out there. So we need to at least tell that story about how she comes back into the fold. Again, if she's right back in the group, that's fine. But at least give us some weekly vignettes to kind of give us a flashback, so to speak, on why she would be back in the group now. That's all I'm asking. A little bit of storytelling to go along with that, to clear that up, and hopefully give us closure over that god-awful, miserable shit that happened back then, okay? With that said, people were upset that she didn't win the Elimination Chamber. That's okay. I wouldn't get too upset about it. She had a little thing, it looked like, with Liv and a little bit with Roxanne there, which is fine. You want to throw a little bit of a small feud in there with one of those two. I don't see how it's going to work with Liv, considering she's on Raw. Obviously, with tag team titles involved, you can figure out something there. And that leads me to where I think we could go. And a lot of people have already said this, is we do get her back in the Wyatt Six, and then her and Nikki, much like in the past they've teamed, her and Nikki are back together, and they can go after the women's tag team titles. And that can really kickstart other feuds, because then they'll be able to bounce back and forth from the shows and really kind of get something going as far as feuds between Alexa and Nikki and who they're going to deal with and things like that. That would be great. And then, of course, Uncle Howdy and Joe Gacy, Eric Rowan, Dexter Lumis, they can focus on tag team titles as well. Maybe you have Rowan and Lumis or Rowan and Gacy focus on tag team titles, whereas Joe or Dexter may focus on United States title because they are on SmackDown. It'd be nice to get them in that mix. I know it's going to be a minute before we get there. We can tell a story getting there, but I want to see them more regularly involved. I don't need to see them every single week, but I need to see them a little more regularly involved. Every couple weeks. Hell, at this point, I'll take every 3 weeks. We haven't seen them in months, okay? I personally got to see them during the WWE Holiday Tour in Pittsburgh, where I live, and I was actually really happy that I got to see them. Of course, Uncle Howdy was not there. He was out with whatever was going on with him, but we at least got to see Nikki and Gacy, Lumis, and Rowan. And important to me is getting to see Rowan because he is from the original iteration of the Wyatts, of course, naturally. And it was important to me to get to see him because he's been through hell and back, to say the least. So it was really special to get to see him. And for me, he needs this, and this is special to him, and it probably helps him a lot being a part of this, I would imagine. And it was really special at that show, that Holiday Tour house show, because he brought the original sheep mask with him, and he held that up at the end of the match that they won, and he held that up, and it was quite the moment to honor that. And yeah, it was really special, honestly. It was really special to see that. If you're here for any other pro wrestling talk and stuff like that, and you're not really into the Wyatt stuff, you're in the wrong channel, guys. You're at the wrong channel. Heavy, heavy, heavy Wyatt community here. We are pro Wyatt 6, pro Bray Wyatt, pro Wyatt community, all the way up and down. So if you're not into that kind of thing, you are absolutely on the wrong channel, my friend. We will talk about all the other stuff, but as far as Wyatt stuff goes, it gets a lot of attention and a lot of focus on this channel, okay? Now, we are going to move on a little bit and talk about the big, huge, mega happenings from the Elimination Chamber. The biggest thing that people are talking about, of course, is John Cena turning heel. And, you know, back in the day, this isn't like the first time he was heel. It's just been a long-ass time since he was a heel. Because back in 2002, 2003, when he started the Doctor of Thugonomics, he was a heel. All right? Over time, that got popular, and, of course, the fans kind of flipped and made him into a babyface because they loved all the raps and stuff they would come out and do. But make no mistake about it, he started out straight up as a heel as far as the Doctor of Thugonomics goes. And for me personally, I love the Doctor of Thugonomics, right? Absolutely love it. I'm a sneakerhead, so I love that he had the Reebok pumps, and the Reebok pump is one of my all-time favorite shoes. Absolutely all-time favorite. And to see him coming out there rocking those, I was like, all right, John. Okay. All right. Thought it was pretty damn cool. But as soon as he got away from that and, you know, the theme music changed and he started being the happy-go-lucky, you know, Yahoo soldier, and yeah, I was like, man, what are you doing? And I was kind of like, it literally took me out of it quite a bit, really early on. It wasn't very long before I'm like, all right, come on, man, this is lame as fucking lame as possibly can be, okay? Because now we're just wearing bright colors and this and that, and he's super happy-go-lucky, and he stopped wearing he wore the sneakers for a while, the Reeboks and some Jordans and stuff like that, but then kind of stopped doing that, too, and just wore whatever generic-ass bullshit sneaker or whatever. Not that that's the most important thing or anything, but being sneakerhead, you know, you focus on that. So, yeah. And then just years and years and years of him I know it's not necessarily his fault. Again, one of those things where maybe eventually it became his fault, but just being put over other younger talent that really needed a push and just constantly being put over them and put over and Bray Wyatt included. God, just infuriating, especially over Bray Wyatt. As far as the last 20 years, because if we go back further than that, the favorites change. But as far as the last 20 years, CM Punk and Bray Wyatt were always my top favorites. Always my top favorites. If we go back before that, say we go back to the beginning when I started watching, my top favorites. Hogan was not one of them, folks. It was not. It was always Macho Man Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior, Ricky the Dragon. Those were like my top favorites. Even in the Hogan era where everybody's Hogan out. Yeah, I thought he was all right, but definitely not my top favorite. Or even in my top favorites. Top favorites were Macho Man and, like I said, Ricky the Dragon, Ultimate Warrior. Even though Ultimate Warrior was so crazily delusional and whatever mumbo jumbo you was saying, can't help it, thought he was cool. Then, of course, we get into the 90s stuff. Bret Hart was always number one. Shawn Michaels came in at number 2. And then, of all people, Kevin Nash Diesel was my number 3 in the 90s. Early 90s, you know what I'm talking about. They were the 3 that I really, really gravitated toward and really enjoyed. Bret, Shawn, and Kevin Diesel. And then, of course, the late 90s, it was Stone Cold Steve Austin. Hands down, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Loved The Rock, too, at the time, but Stone Cold always took precedence over The Rock when it came to what I saw on TV. I always wanted Stone Cold to be getting one up on The Rock, no matter what. Even though I loved The Rock, too, back then, it was always Stone Cold. Then we move into the modern, early 2000s, mid 2000s, even the 2010s, whatever. It was always CM Punk once he came in. CM Punk, and that was the end of that. I was just CM Punk straight up and down the board, through all of it. Straight Edge Society, everything, all that stuff. Like John Cena when he was the Doctor, like I said. Yeah, it's all right. I liked it. It was cool. But CM Punk was by far and away top favorite. And then when Wyndham was Husky Harris, of course, that was just an afterthought. But once he came back into NXT, when you started seeing those vignettes of Bray Wyatt, I'm like, this is interesting. It's a far departure than what you were expecting to get out of him. And instantly I'm like captivated because I love horror movies. Big time horror movie fan. Up and down the board horror movies. Back in the day, in the 80s, watching horror movies, way too young because the family just did not care what I was watching, and they probably should have, considering I'm watching like Nightmare on Elm Street at age 5, and it's like, it's pretty funny. And so anyway, big time horror fan. So when Bray Wyatt was a thing and it started to show itself, I was like, oh, this is really cool. Of course, Undertaker is in that mix too, because he was very much in kind of the horror realm almost, kind of like that too. And I liked Undertaker. I've always liked Undertaker, but still, when I'm telling you what my favorites were that I really, really liked, that's who they are. I mean, I liked Undertaker, don't get me wrong, but I'm telling you straight up from the heart what my favorites were. And Bray Wyatt ended up taking precedence over CM Punk, but still CM Punk was my number one guy. They were kind of like right here with me. So then, of course, all the stuff happens with CM Punk and John Cena constantly getting one up on him, but then CM Punk goes on his 434-day reign, which was okay, but kind of bogged down with the shitty match card placement that he always got put on. So a little bit of a Debbie Downer there. And then John Cena just being John Cena, and absolutely sick of that motherfucker at that point. Absolutely sick of him at that point. So Bray Wyatt became the main focus for me. And then, of course, Punk leaves. But then Bray getting buried nonstop by John Cena, and people say don't throw the buried word around. Well, motherfucker got buried by John Cena. Let's be straight up honest. Nonstop, just loss after loss after loss. Never could get one up on John Cena. And it was absolutely infuriating, mind-numbingly just infuriating that here you have someone that could be the next Undertaker kind of style gimmick or whatever, and was definitely on the road to that, and you're just taking a big giant shit on him every goddamn time he had a chance to go to that next level. It just gets shit on, okay? I don't know. It just personally made me love him more, I guess. But all that said leads back to what happened with John Cena at Elimination Chamber, because in the Firefly Funhouse match back in 2020, Bray foreshadowed what John is really like. Now, of course, they weren't thinking about this past Sunday or Saturday when they did this, but they could have drawn from it because it did happen. So they could have went back, and John could have went back and been like, you know what, I'm going to draw from this a little bit, because it's there's stuff there into which Bray basically said, this is what John Cena is, okay? So he foreshadowed this in the Firefly Funhouse match, which is very cool because you can go back and literally connect the dots. There's a video out there that's showing John, punching Bray, which turns into Huskus the Pig and all that, but it kind of lines up with him punching Cody and stuff at the same time. It's very cool because it does line things up very nicely. So as far as John Cena turning on Cody, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's too late. It's 10 years too late. There was a time where he was going to turn heel. They made music for him and everything, and it just didn't happen. I wanted him to turn heel because maybe I would have became a fan of his again, you know. But nope, they never did it. And now people are saying, "Oh, well, it's too late now." No, it's not too late. It feels like it's too late, but I think there's something here, you know, because this is not the same John Cena. All right. He has left. He has become, think about it, guys. He has become what he used to bitch about with The Rock. They had a whole feud over the course of 2 years over this, literally over this, where The Rock, you know, he leaves and this and that, and he's not fully dedicated to this anymore, he's so forth and so on, because he's Hollywood. Literally had a feud over this for like 2 years, if not longer. And now here we are. Cena has become what he used to bitch about. Think about it, it's already happened. Once he stopped coming around, and he's Mr. Hollywood, he's already a heel at that point, because he has become what he used to bitch about. So for him to align himself with The Rock here makes perfect sense. It makes absolutely 1,000% perfect sense. So, of course, it was a surprise, though. If anybody thinks they saw it coming, they did not see it coming, I assure you. We have heard speculation that it could go this way, but honestly, after 20 years, do you really, like, oh, yeah, it could do that, but you never fully, like, believed in your heart, and, well, they're not going to do that. I mean, it's his last year, he's got all the kids and Make-A-Wish and everything else, they're just not going to do it. Like, you thought about it, but you knew that it was like, yeah, they're probably not going to do that, but, you know, it could be a thing. And you know what? They did it. They did it. And they didn't just do it. They did it and really laid it in, too. You know, because at first people were like, oh, man, yeah, he kicked him in the balls and fans were kind of cheering and stuff. But then as the beatdown proceeded and got worse and worse and worse, then the fans are like, okay, fuck you, dude. And yeah, that's the other thing. Cody said, hey, Rock, go fuck yourself. Did not edit it. And I felt that was, you know what, necessary that they didn't, because he really hammered that home, and it really elevated the whole thing that was going on there by having that in there. And it just made it that more important that Cody is our champion, right? And then when John does what he does and they do what they do and they beat him down the way they beat him down, it just makes it that much more up here as far as how high on the list that this moment was in the history of the WWE. Some call it like one of the greatest turns of all time, comparing it to Hogan, you know, joining the NWO, which I would have to agree with, because quite honestly, guys, like I said, I wasn't the hugest Hogan fan. I did watch WCW back then, but I was more watching because my boy Kevin Nash went over there. I'm like, Diesel, where are you going, man? Why are you going over there? Of course, he needed the paycheck. That's why he's going over there. I mean, let's face it, I would too. But so I followed Razor, my other guy, my man Razor, over there, and Diesel, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? So that's kind of why I was following that. Wasn't so much because Hogan went over there. I can assure you of that. So, yeah, it's up. It's, you know, I can see where people are saying that, but for me, in the history of the WWE itself, and not WCW, yeah, it would be one of the biggest turns. The other one being Stone Cold at WrestleMania. What was it? X7? Yeah, WrestleMania X7, 17. What I personally think is one of the best WrestleManias of all. It may be my favorite WrestleMania, X7, 17. Yeah, I think so. But that's when Stone Cold desperately needed to win against The Rock, and he turned on him and joined forces with you know who. And that was quite the moment, and shocking to say the least. Super shocking, because it pissed me off big time, which is what it's meant to do. And it kind of fumbled the ball after that because of the whole alliance thing and everything else that happened after that. But at first, it was pretty damn cool and really well done. But it just, like I said, after a while, it really fell off, unfortunately. And so, yeah, that's the two biggest ones for me in the WWE. Of course, you have the Montreal Screwjob, but I don't really consider that a turn, a heel turn. We're talking about heel turns, right? So, yeah, the Stone Cold one and this was definitely up there. And here's another thing I want to say that I see online a lot. When things like this happen or whatever, you have people on there like, I can't believe they would do this. I'm so pissed off at this booking decision. Grr. And it's like, you do realize that's what they want. You're supposed to be pissed. You're supposed to be mad at it. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of someone going from, yay, I'm a good guy, to, grr, I'm a bad guy, is you're supposed to hate it. But see, in this modern day, it's more than just that. In this modern day, since everybody's kind of smartened up and we all know the storylines and the heels and the baby faces and the terminologies and all that stuff, they know you know that. So they have to get you where they can get you no matter what. And so, yeah, if you're all pissed off at this booking decision, well, they did what they were supposed to, which is piss you off. And that's what they wanted, and they did it. Okay? So for everybody that sits on there and goes, I can't believe that. Yeah, well, they got you, man. You've been worked because that's what they want. That's what they wanted to do, is piss you off. And they did it. So, what do I think about where this is going? Well, obviously it's going to be Cody and John Cena at WrestleMania. And I love Cody. Love Cody. Who would be my favorite of all time in the current iteration of WWE? It's CM Punk. Okay. But I still love Cody. Happy to see where he was, like where he came from where he started. Definitely love that. Love seeing that. But CM Punk's still my top. If you don't like that, oh well. So I think that, we're going to get some kind of craziness because of The Rock in this main event. And I do think Cena's going to end up with his 17th title. And it's going to be ugly. People are not going to be happy. You're not going to be going home happy at this WrestleMania, because I think it's about time. I think the time has come where you don't go home happy at one of these WrestleManias, because it's been a lot of go home happy tonight WrestleManias, and we need a you're not going home happy night at WrestleMania. Now, I guess you would say at WrestleMania 39, you didn't really go home happy if you were a Cody fan because of what happened. Okay, so I guess that happened, but you have to figure the night before you did go home happy with Owens and Sammy and the tag title match and all that stuff. But I guess we did do, now that I'm thinking about it, I guess we didn't go home happy on night 2 in 39. That's okay. That's all right. I think we need a really go home pissed off WrestleMania. And I think this may even be worse than Cody not winning against Roman that year, because this is a whole nother level of different shit. Okay, this is John Cena, desperate for title number 17. The Rock, for whatever reason, is obsessed with destroying Cody's life, because that's all this is about. He knew he wasn't going to say yes. He knew this. He knew Cena was already in cahoots with him. Okay, they already knew this. In storyline, of course. They already knew, Cody ain't going to turn on me. He knows that, so he's just going to play around with him and toy with him. Hence why, drinking the tequila and all that stuff and messing around with him. He drew him in, to get him to this point so that he could do this to him that he did on Saturday night. So, where does that leave my man CM Punk? Well, it leaves him with Seth Rollins, which we're getting a steel cage match, I guess, on Raw next week, where I think Roman Reigns returns, and that will set up the whole triple threat at WrestleMania. You can't really put CM Punk in the title picture that's going on with Cody and Cena right now, but I will tell you how you can get there in a second. You have CM Punk, Rollins, and Roman Reigns. That's going to be, I don't know if that's going to be a main event or not. I think maybe not, but I could be wrong. I really think you should give Jay the main event of night 1 with Gunther. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do put CM Punk, Rollins, and Roman in that main event of night 1. Okay. At least put Jay and Gunther before that match, so they're at the end, at least, right? So I think that's probably how that's going to go. But the way you could get CM Punk to the title is John's going to win it from Cody. Cody has to fight Scratch and Claw to get his way back to it, but CM Punk finds his way to it via the favor of Paul Heyman, because at that point, we're past what happens at WrestleMania, and maybe Paul can use his pull to get Punk into a position, which then creates interesting rifts between Roman and Paul and Punk and all that stuff, because Roman already doesn't like Punk. And you could create some interesting avenues there that could get us to SummerSlam, where Punk does go up against Cena and possibly beat Cena. Punk gets the title, and then we can go on from there. Or who knows what else happened. There's multiple different things, which is what I love about how they're doing this. There's multiple different ways we can go about it. So that's where I think you could go. One of the many ways that you could go with it. And so, talking about what happened on Raw last night, CM Punk came out and absolutely just cut one of the best promos he's ever cut in his entire life, which is unsurprising because he's incredibly just, I don't know, mind-blowing when he's on the microphone, especially when he's heated and really feeling it like he did last night. It's just, there's nobody better at that point. Absolutely not. He called out The Rock, called out Cena, two bald frauds. Love that line. And so that tells you that there's probably something going to happen there between them eventually down the line, which, like I said, could be what I said just a minute ago. And so you have that, and then, of course, he moves on to Seth, and he's telling him this and that and yelling about him. And then he says, Becky Lynch, come get your husband before I put him in a wheelchair. And funnily enough, Becky online tweets out what'd she say? No, I don't think I'm the one that needs to come get my man, or something like that. And there's a picture of Punk in the Elimination Chamber, and then a picture of Roxanne Perez, and the gear is very similar, at least it's the same colors, and then Roxanne's got the stars on her legs, but Punk's got the stars where he usually has them. But the gear is clearly pretty much inspired by or similar in tone. It looks very similar, implying that AJ Lee needs to come get her man. Could you imagine Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee at WrestleMania? That would be crazy, but I don't know if we have enough time to get to that. But we could get to it this year, which would be interesting. Very interesting. Not saying that's where that's going, but the seeds were planted for that right there, which is very interesting. And of course, Seth and Punk, they fight and they brawl and everything else, and it's a madhouse, and then led to the steel cage match that we're going to get next week. And then we're just going to move on to the end because, like I said, I'm just going to touch on the main stuff. I wanted to get out there, first of all, where I'm coming from, how I feel about things, really let you guys know who I am, what I'm doing, what the channel's about, kind of lay out some of the history of me and where I'm at with this whole wrestling business. And that way, in the future, we can just talk about this stuff and you know already kind of who I am and where I'm coming from, okay? So at the end, we have Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky. Bianca Belair is on the outside watching. Absolutely nobody thought going into this that there would be any other outcome than Rhea retaining and then moving on to WrestleMania. Maybe something happens where Io can say, hey, somehow get into the match and make it a triple threat or something like that. Because let's face it, Io Sky is just too damn good to leave off the WrestleMania card. And she has busted her ass all the past year and into this year. And I mean, absolutely busted her ass for this spot. So it would be an absolute travesty to have her not involved in some way, shape, or form. Rhea, when she has come back since the title match on Raw on Netflix, the first one or whatever it was, has done really nothing to note that's even whatever. She's just kind of there. So this really lights a fire under it, you know? Nobody came in thinking Io Sky was walking out the women's world champion, and she very much did. And it was shocking. Like, I was like, whoa, holy shit, this actually just happened. I don't know. I mean, just shock after shock these past few days with everything that's been going on. But this one definitely shocked me because, they don't usually do something like that literally right before WrestleMania. But you know what? This is Triple H. This is Triple H, and he comes from an era where they did do shit like this before WrestleMania. He was part of most of the times they did shit like this before WrestleMania way back in the day, right? And yeah, it's just, it's definitely his fingerprints to do something like this, and I love every minute of it. I absolutely love it. Rhea, yeah, she looked kind of dumb to involve herself with Bianca outside when she should have kept her eye on the ball. And people were complaining because it should have been a DQ. But you know what? The ref was out there in between them. And she decided, you know what? We're going to keep this going as long as you two stay apart from this point forward. And she tells her to get back in the ring, whatever. And for that, I will say this. I'm okay with that when it makes sense. And it made sense here. A lot of people are bitching and complaining about it. Oh, it should have been a DQ. It should have been a DQ. However, those same people would have come on here and said, oh, how could they end it in a DQ after all that they just did? How could they end it in a DQ after all that? That's just how it's going to end. That's what they would have said. That's what they would have said. And now here they are, okay? Ref used her discretion and said, nope, stay apart. We're going to keep this match going because it's a title match and there will be a winner. And yet those same people come on and they're bitching and whining, and it's just really, they're never happy. They're absolutely never happy. You can't please these people. There's no point in having a war of words with them. Just forget it. Just forget it. Just move on. There's no point in talking to these people. Anyway, Io Sky wins. She is the champion in a shocking moment that nobody saw coming. And now it's Io Sky versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. Rhea, most people, they're looking at her like, wow, she looked really stupid there. But if you watch the clip that was posted of her after the show, she's sitting on one of the road cases, and I think it's Jackie Redmond that interviews her. She literally says, yeah, I was stupid, and she's beating herself up over it, and she literally says where she messed up and why and everything else, and the frustrations and things that led to her not being in the right headspace. It's exactly what you want to hear from someone that ended up in that position, and what happened. So very well done there. And of course, this is going to lead to her finding her way back in. And that's how we get the triple threat. It wasn't going to just be super cookie cutter. Oh, she retains. Io, finds her way in or whatever. No. Triple H is like, you know what? I'm flipping the script. We're changing it up. People want to call me predictable. How about this, motherfucker? Bam. Yeah, we're still going to get there to that triple threat, but we're going to do it this way. So I really, really liked that. It was shocking to say the least. And I love that. I love not knowing, and I love when I get worked. I love that whole thing, because all this shit mostly gets ruined by everything you read online and everything else. When you just shut all that bullshit off and you just watch the show and you actually get worked by the show, that's what you want. That's what you want. That's what makes it interesting going down the line, especially going into WrestleMania. So, those are my thoughts on what's been going on, and we're going to do another one of these next week and kind of cover things. We'll cover what happened on SmackDown that's coming up this Friday, of course, and we will talk about what happens on Raw next week with the steel cage match and all that, all right? If anything else pops up that seems to be super newsworthy, anything Wyatt stuff or, anything related to that, we will definitely come on here and talk about it. But until then, I will see you next week. We'll try to make this every Tuesday. I think that's a good way to do it. We'll try to make this every Tuesday. And we're not going anywhere. We're going to be doing this, okay? I know that I've come on here, and then I leave, and then I come on, and I leave. We're going to try to stick to doing this once a week, podcast, every Tuesday. House of Riddict podcast on WWE. So, with that said, I will catch you all down the road.